Hello, Sonia.
Hi.
Can't see you just yet, but I think it's going to come up.
There it is.
There you are. Nice to see you.
Hi.
We've not talked before. I'm Adrian. You may know Chris, who's hanging over there. If I can point you. Oh, there he is.
Hi.
He's hanging in the background there. Hanging in the background. I think we've got cameras and bits and pieces. So we're just going to keep this very light. You don't have to worry. I can see you looking around thinking, what is this man going to be doing? You know.
Yeah.
Listen, you're a medium. You should know this. No, we're just going to chat about bits and pieces because sometimes people think mediums are, drafted in from Mars, and it's a bit weird, it's a bit wonderful, and all the rest. So, and they never realise it's quite a natural progression, do they? Really want to find out a little bit about yourself, what you like, what you don't like, all those sort of things. Why you became a medium? I suppose you became a medium because you were sensitive as a child, were you?
I was born with it.
Oh, right.
I was born with it.
Oh, that's fantastic. But did you understand it at that age?
No, I actually didn't. No.
Did you think perhaps you were an alien or something like that, or did you feel disconnected from others?
I thought everyone saw the same as me, so I just thought it was normal.
So who's in your family that has the same ability you? Is your mother, or is it back a generation?
I would say it's definitely on my mother's side of the family.
Right. And
my father's side of the family, they're all skeptics. Most of them, I would say, are skeptics.
Yeah, they are. Most men are. Well, there's a few exceptions. One sitting in front of you at the moment, but a lot of them are. They're very sort of black and white. This doesn't exist. And my father was the same for me. Didn't understand it. My mother had an ability, but she didn't understand it. So it was a time to learn the lesson. So how did you develop from being sensitive and seeing? What did you see? Auras?
I saw, as a toddler, I ended up seeing animal spirits more.
Oh, wow.
And then as I got older, I ended up seeing fairies, mythical creatures, actual people that passed on. So I ended up seeing more of that.
So how did you get that explained to you? What sort of age? You must have been quite young to experience all that and then go, why can't you see that? Did your friends understand you, or did they think you were a little bit strange?
They thought I was strange.
How little they know. How little they know about you then, eh, really?
Not at all. They didn't know me at all, really.
No.
My mom was very supportive. She knew what I had, but she was the one that pushed me to learn more about it.
All right.
She didn't tell me to stop or anything like that. So, yeah. So I went to see some mediums because I want to know, if they see something about me. And they all say, are you a healer? Are you working with people that, need help from me? And I was like, oh, no, I didn't know that. So I didn't know what they were talking about. But I ended up reading books about stuff like that. So, yeah.
So that got you onto the pathway. And then, and what about, I always think it's a hard balance between the physical world and the metaphysical world of really getting that balance in life. Sometimes, we lose that balance, and I must put my hand up to that sometimes. We get so involved with the metaphysical side, almost our life side tends to go slightly to one way. How did you find the balance, or how do you find the balance?
I guess I found the balance by being outdoors. That's how I was more how to calm myself down or how to control my abilities is just being outdoors.
Yes. So that gave you some sort of balance as well. And what about jobs and things like that? Are you doing this work full time, or are you like myself and others? We mix and match with other work that we do.
I mix and match with other work that I do as well.
Yeah.
This is not the only thing I do on the side.
Yeah. So. I think you're quite right, because I think it keeps you grounded, doesn't it? Sometimes we need to have a balance between the people that we're helping, and not everybody wants to be helped on the metaphysical side. Sometimes I guess they want to talk to you about their life and what's going on.
Yeah.
So taking it to another level, you've obviously explored the spiritual side quite a lot. Do you know who your guides are, or do they appear to you, or do you just sense them?
I sense them.
Yeah, that's probably the best way for it, because that otherwise we don't put a focus on them, because they're only sitting at the background for us to help us move forward.
Yeah.
Good. And so, I mean, do you do spiritual readings, that sort of thing, or what's part of your spiritual toolkit? What else do you do?
I do tarot and angel card readings.
Oh, right, yes.
I help with businesses. For clients that are having trouble starting up a business, or they don't know what directions to take, I'll help them with that. Sometimes I have people that want to know who are, like, what their past lives were.
Yes, regression, yep.
And sometimes I get, like, if they want messages from their loved ones, then I tell them what messages I received from them.
Yeah. And how does that work for you? Because I know everybody works different clairvoyantly. Some people will see them in their mind's eye, which is, for a lot of people, a lot of it is sensing, and there are a few that actually see them standing in front of other people or around people. Is yours a mixture of that, do you find, or is yours more specific in the sensing and seeing in the mind's eye?
I see them as if they're in the same room as my client and I.
Okay.
And I would sense their feelings or what messages they want to give to them.
Yes.
That's what I'll just say it out loud. Sometimes I have a lot of spirits coming at once. I'm just like, okay, one at a time.
Yeah.
It's just overwhelming. I'm like, I can't blurt everything at once.
No, it must be quite.
I would describe to clients too what they look like as well.
That's really, really good. Now, have you put this into a book, into a teaching book, or do you do things like that, or is that on your agenda?
No, not teaching. No.
But you are, in some ways. You're teaching people to connect to the spiritual side of things.
Yes.
So if I said to you, what do you want to do for the next 5 years on your spiritual work? What do you have a goal yet, or do you say, what I'm doing now, I'll continue? Do you have other insights to what you would like to do?
I still want to continue helping people, but at the same time, I want to help I want to help more with animals.
Right. And explain to me, when you want to help more with animals, is that the animals that are passed over, or are we talking about animals that are still on the earth plane?
Earth plane.
Okay, so you love your animals and bits and pieces. So if you actually, you may see a cat running up here. We've got 2 cats in the house, and they're both rescue cats. So on occasions they'll come up as part of the interview. They shouldn't do, but they do. I think they tune into the energy sometimes and come around. And working with Chris a while ago, we were interviewing outside, and one of our cats that never sits with me, came and sat on my lap, and I thought, you're trying to take the glory. He just sat there as if he does this all the time. But I think it was because Chris is very spiritually inclined, and therefore seems to attract the animals as well, which is really, really nice. Yeah. So do you see auras around people, the energy around people? Is that part of what you see or not?
I do see part of it, yes.
And if I can ask you about your regression, because you look at past lives, do you does that just come to you? Do you just sort of tune in and it sort of just rolls out what their lives are? How does that work for you?
I see it as like it's a black and white film, like a movie being shown at me, and then I see like bits and pieces of the movie.
And that's how and then you'll say how many lifetimes you can see around that person. How long does that session go on for?
That goes on for an hour.
Okay, that's cool. Because in some ways it is a form of clairvoyance, because you're using your spiritual intuitive side, aren't you, to connect with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and do people ask about their guides? Who is my guide? What does my guide look like? Do you get questions like that in the work that you do?
A lot of people ask me about that. They would want to know why they're with me or what they look like. I would describe to them what they look like, and I would answer the questions that they want to know specifically for that guide.
That's really good. What's really interesting, you're so natural and laid back with this, as if this is, as you said, it's been with you all your life, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So therefore you don't know anything different, really.
No.
Did you find that... Go
a
on.
lot of people ask me like, oh, like they want to know more about me and what I do. So I'm like, I'm just used to, answering the questions. So,
Yeah. But I think you see, because we never learn this science when we're at school or primary school or whatever we'd call early school, and in a lot of families this is never talked about, I guess. So it's quite exclusive little club to belong to. But if you talk to someone who's in the know, it makes sense. And if you don't, well, you either gain friends or you lose friends, don't you, somewhere along the line?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So tell me, do you do your work on a one-to-one? Is it over the web as well, like on a website?
I do it over the phone, mainly through Skype. I do it in person as well. Like I
Okay.
travel a lot during for clients as well.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I do.
How
Yeah.
far would you travel when you say travel? You're not catching a plane, I guess, but
I do catch a plane.
do you?
I drive, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
'Cause everyone wants to know stuff, so they always come to me.
That's amazing to
Yeah.
think that you're travelling out to see people as well. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously things like the media we're using, Skype at the moment, gets you close to a lot of people, and obviously
Yeah.
sometimes I think it's good to have a face contact, isn't it, to actually see that
Yeah.
person's face, and most times you can see the aura around people, so that sort of helps, and it's more like a one-to-one, whether they're on the other side of the world or not.
Yeah.
So is there anyone else in your family that's inspired what you do, or you've influenced them into that?
Both of my sisters,
Oh, right.
they're both healers. I would say one of them is more of a healer than the other.
Yeah.
They're twins, so they
Ah.
kind of have that ability.
And
to heal.
is that because of your influence? They see what you do and they would query it, or did they grow up like you with that awareness?
I think they wanted to know more about it because if I had that abilities,
Yeah.
all the skills, then they're like, oh, I think we do too. So they're kind of like, let's see if we do. So they're more excited than I was to learn.
Yes, I suppose, but there again, you had to learn the hard way, I guess, and ask a lot of questions from me.
Yeah.
Now you've got the experience; it's easier to give them that information because it's already with you, it's resident with you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is really, really lovely. So the three sisters together, wow, that's phenomenal. That really is good. So, and do the sisters have any families, any children at all? Do you think there's a? I don't know their ages.
They don't have any kids. No.
Okay.
They don't.
I'm just wondering. That wasn't clairvoyance. I was just asking the question because even for the same for yourself. If you ever go down the pathway, or you have, I'm not prying, have children. I guess your children will have an influence from you on the spiritual side.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure they would.
yeah. I'm not marrying you off whether you are or not, but it's just it's obviously come to you through your mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you know, it may hit other, especially to have your sisters on board with it as well. That's fine. You could almost work venues together, the three of you, couldn't you? You could all three work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has that ever been talked about?
No, we don't talk about it much in person.
Are they not close to you as in location wise, or they've got that feeling and sensing, but they're not doing exactly what you're doing?
My mom and one of my sister are live close to me, but my other one is in the Caribbean. She lives there.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I would
it's
understand
hard.
that.
Yeah.
And do you know if that's understood in the Caribbean at all? The spiritual influences?
I don't think so.
No. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, as we'd say in the UK, and that's fine because if it rocks someone's boat, it may not rock someone else's, and I accept that. But it's certainly a wonderful gift to give back to humanity.
Yeah.
To get people in touch with their inner self and not the altered ego part of what they do as work and bits and pieces, and quite rightly you were saying you earlier on, you multitask, you do lots of other little jobs as well, very similar to what I do, but it makes you connect with people on all sorts of levels. And I guess when people find out what you do, well, you can't stop all the questions coming your way, can you?
No. No.
So you haven't got a 5-year plan yet of what you want to do. I mean, if someone's taught you or you learn that information, you've taught your sisters that, and that's good. Do you not run a meditation group or anything like that yet?
Not yet. I'm planning on, but not yet.
Okay. What about a YouTube channel? Is that a possibility?
It is a possibility, yeah. Yeah.
I'm not finding out your secrets. It's just when someone has a spiritual skill set, it's certainly worth sharing with other people, and other people will ask you a million and one questions, I would guess.
Yeah.
Good. So, you know, we talked about the different aspects of your work, and you said to relax you like to be in the open. Do you find spirit always talking to you, communicating with you? How does it work with you? If you're doing something away from not what we're doing at the moment, you know, if you're doing something domesticated, do spirit go, do this, do that, or do they prompt you with things?
They would tell me, oh, do this and do that. Sometimes they push me into the direction that I need to be doing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd be like, just leave me alone. I don't want to do it my way, kind of thing. But most of the times they just want to act, like, just say like, oh, you need to do this. You know, like it's kind of like a deadline that you're giving me.
Yes. So you do it your way, and eventually you come back and do it their way. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know the feeling. Now, with all this information you've got in you, do you ever write that down? I did say about a book, but maybe notes and things like that. Do you get like automatic writing?
Usually when I'm dreaming, I get messages.
Right.
And then I would have to, they would wake me up, like certain spirits would wake me up and they would say, write it down, because it would be something important, maybe like in a day or a week that if I end up forgetting, then they're like, just write it down.
Well, I think you're quite right, because you do, not you personally, but people do forget, because when it's given in the subconscious state, it comes through the mind and we just become like a speaker or an amplifier. And we make a note, and we often have that in our meditation groups. Something comes through that's been passed through myself, similar to you, and I say to someone in the group, please write that down because I will not remember this. And they write it down and save it for later. So that's really, really good. And you're quite a young lady to do this, aren't you, to get involved with all this, which is fantastic. So it means when you get to an old age like mine, then you may decide that, you know, there's lots more things. I'm sure the world is your oyster, and there's so many things you haven't really tried. Now, tell me more about the animals. Working with the animals, do you work for a veterinary practice or some rescue centre? How do you see that moving?
I volunteer at wildlife centers nearby me.
Okay.
If I travel, I would travel in the Caribbean to work with animals there as well. I sometimes, if I'm out in the wilderness, like animals come to me for maybe help as well, because I can easily sense how their pain, or
yes,
if they need someone to talk to, they would come up to me to have a little chat.
Yes.
Sometimes if they're close to dying, then they would need someone to help them, you know, move on. So I would do the healing and tell them it's okay to let go.
Oh, wow.
And they pass on. So yeah, I would like to do more with animals.
So, that's amazing, because obviously there's lots of people out there who are mediums who just concentrate on the people, but to have that connection with the animals and that empathy for the animals is fantastic, because they do communicate, don't they? I know that. I mean, I can see it with different animals. And where you volunteer, is it just domestic animals, or is it all sorts of animals where you volunteer?
I would say half.
Oh, right. So tell me, you know, what some of the animals that you connect with at this sanctuary or place? I mean, it's dogs, cats.
Yeah, dogs, cats, birds. If I'm in the Caribbean, it would be monkeys, jaguars. I would do wildcats.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've actually got that communication with the wildcats at times?
Yeah.
And how, it's a silly question, but how do they differ from domesticated animals? And it's not a silly question, because they have a different instinct level, don't they, you know, than an animal who's been domesticated. What's the different feeling you get with a wonderful, well, they're all wonderful creatures, but a wonderful creature like a jaguar compared to someone's domestic cat. What's the sensing there? Do they just feel or sense different, when you've got that level of connection with them?
I don't sense any difference between bigger cats and smaller cats.
Yeah. Okay, I was just wondering because a big jaguar tends not to be domesticated, isn't it? Or it could be in a zoo or come from a zoo. Or it could have been out in the wild, and I guess their instinct values are different, or perhaps more trusting in men are the domestic rather than the non-domestic. But obviously you've said that the times that you walk out to the woods, you can feel and sense the animals coming to you, and they make that connection, which I think is wonderful to do. I've never come across anyone with that level of doing it, which is fantastic to hear that. Do you see the aura around those animals as well? The energy around them at all?
I feel their energy, but I don't see their auras. It's more of like how they're feeling in a way.
And how would you describe their... I know that sounds silly questions, but I'm trying to get people who don't understand what you do to have a basic understanding what you sense from the animal. Sometimes you sense that animal's pain. Sometimes that animal wants company, or it just wants a loving contact, let's put it that, or a healing contact as well. So there's a healing aspect with your animals as well, yes?
Yes.
Now, where you volunteer, do the people there know that you sort of have that connection with the animals, or do they just see you as a volunteer for coming in to do whatever that you have to do?
They see me as just helping out. They don't know my abilities, because I'm sure like some people would be like, oh, you're crazy. I just keep it to myself. I usually tend to keep stuff like that to myself.
Yeah.
If they're open, if I sense that people are spirituality themselves, then I open up, and then we'll have a discussion about it. But otherwise, it's just like I'll keep it to myself. I'll do my own thing. Yeah. And I'll still help out.
No, I understand that. Some people do take it a different way, and I understand that because it happens to me on occasions. But I've got to the stage in my life where I don't care. I think sometimes if you promote and some of it falls on stony ground, as they say, and other times people are just, really, I experienced this, and it sort of triggers a little bit, doesn't it? But we make those choices because I would say the sensitives or mediums are a small minority compared to the majority of people, but there's lots of people who would like to ask questions. There's lots of people who would like to know more. That's why we're talking to you today. It's important to share that light and that understanding, because you're quite a natural, normal person doing normal things, but you have other sensitive ways of connecting with man, disincarnate people, animals on this side, animals on the other side, all of those sort of things. And to you it's just natural, normal, you've done it all your life, which I think is really good. So that's the idea of me asking what would be very obvious questions, because people have already asked you those before, but I think it's good for people to understand it's such a normal thing to do. And wouldn't it be nice for the children to understand this is with them all the time? Yes, they can still learn all their subjects they need to learn, or their life skills they need to learn, but to be taught a little bit, perhaps meditation, or to be sensitively aware of what's around them. I think is quite important. It's almost allowing the next generations become spiritually aware, and maybe they are, I don't know, but it certainly needs more people like yourself and your sisters sort of making those connections. So I think sometimes our future is there, and maybe you are prompted, and maybe after this interview you're going to get prompted by other people. So, well, tell me more about this, tell me more about that,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people connect with the animals because sometimes they don't always connect with people, and that what would we call it? That love, that unconditional love. Is so real, and we don't get hurt by the animals. Well, not unless it's a wild animal and we step on its tail or get in front of it when we shouldn't. But that unconditional love is really all about that spiritual side of things, isn't it? Really, where it's acceptance. But we know in the big wide world, not everybody operates like that. They're out of fear. They're more defensive in how they open themselves up or don't open themselves up. But the love that we get from animals is so beneficial for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
And also for the animal itself.
Yeah.
Which I love animals too. I mean, I just try to make that connection. I'm not as talented as yourself making those sort of connections, but I do have those times when I feel the animals do sense, don't they? They do sense if you're a caring, sharing sort of person, and they feel that bond or that connection, which I think is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And I've loved the thought of you connecting with some of the more wilder side of animals, as rather than just the domesticated. I mean, I only ever see the domesticated ones, and sometimes we'll get called to a veterinary practice to see a cat or a dog, or sometimes I've been called to see a horse that's unwell, and they're all domestic animals. I've not had any wild animals brought to me or me going to them for that, but it's probably a good thing. But in general terms, it's just nice to have that such a wonderful connection, because they bring balance to us, don't they?
Yeah, they
And
do,
I think
yeah.
they almost give us healing because we relax with them, and a lot of the medical reports now say that if you've got an animal, a dog or cat or something like that, you know, your heart rate's lower, you're more or less stressed and all those sort of things. And we know in hospitals now, don't we, that they take they take a petting animal into a hospital, and people respond to it. So I'm just interested as you go forward to find out where you're going to go with what you're going to do, because I think you've started a journey, but I'm not convinced that your journey will stop where you are. I think Spirit are going to pester you and say, come on, do this, do that.
Yeah.
And I think
I'm
you're
sure
going
there's
to...
something out there.
I think if I talk to you again in the future, and at some future date, so, well, Adrian, it's all your fault. You mentioned this, and all of a sudden I'm getting this, I'm getting that, and all the rest. Because I think you're just on the brink of doing something even more than you're doing now. You know, and I'm just quite excited that someone of your age can bring that light and that love in such a natural, normal way. So I'm just waiting to see the next bit. Now, I need to know, how are people going to make that contact with you? Have you got a website, or how do people...
I do have a website, yes.
Yeah?
I have two websites, one for the animals side, and then the other one is for people.
Wow. So tell me about the animal website. What do you do from there? Are you offering healing, or are you offering to go and see that animal? How does that work?
I offer healing. I also offer Reiki healing, mainly Reiki healing.
Yeah.
I also do, I teach animal pet aid, like first aid for animals.
Oh, wow. So you are teaching already?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also more on like the holistic side of things too, like feeding wise. If the animal is sick and they don't know why, or the doctors don't know why, then I would do the healing side of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you're doing the healing, out of interesting, do you feel and sense the energies with your hands? You know, are you?
I feel their pain.
Right.
I feel where the pain is coming from.
So is it almost like scanning an animal? You'd put your hand over the animal, you could sense there where the pain is?
Yeah.
And where you feel that pain, is there an element of diagnostics from that? Do you say, well, I think it's the liver, or I think it's that, or are you just saying, in that area I feel that? Tell me how it works. I don't know.
I would say I would show them where it is, where the pain is. I would tell them, okay, it's in the liver, or it's in the heart, or there's a broken spine, or the animal has a broken spine or a broken leg.
Wow.
I would tell them you would need to go to a doctor for that. And then usually they would tell the doctors, like, oh yeah, sir, this lady, she's telling me, like, oh, check the heart, check the liver,
wow,
do x-rays. So then they know, like, okay, she's right.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now, one question, do you ever see into the structure of the animal, like muscle tissue and that sort of thing? Have you ever seen that at all?
No.
Okay, the only reason I asked that is because years ago, when I was working as a healer, I still do that now, I was looking at someone and suddenly it looked like I'd changed my glasses and I could see all the muscle fibres and structures in the leg and the arm and like that. It didn't last for a long time. I saw it over a few patients. I thought, well, I'm getting distracted by that. I think the more important thing is the energy can flow through the body how it should do, and the healing is going to the right areas through the chakras. So it was just interesting that you've got that level of information coming through. And do you feel that you're supported by a different guide when that happens? Is there, do you feel someone different, or do you just sense you when you're working?
I sense more of me doing it, but as well, I sometimes ask the angels, the archangels, to help me out if I feel like I'm stuck on something, and then they would just like give me a direction of where I should be.
Right. So, and do you would ask a different archangel, or would you just say, "Come on, archangels, tell me what this. I can't work this out." Would you ask a specific angel for?
I would ask a Pacific angel that does healing for animals.
Oh, right, because we hear it in our group sometimes, but I'm not really up to that. I don't understand fully that. I accept it, but I don't have that knowledge. So that's why I'm asking you, would you ask this particular angel or that particular angel why that animal's suffering, where the problem is?
Yeah.
So that's fantastic to have that ability. So that's one of your websites. Now tell me about your other website you have. Is that general for like mediumship, or how does that work?
I do more on doing readings for people. I do Akashic readings. I do emotion codes as well. I have a lot of services on that page, actually. It's a lot going on that page. I recently just added massage therapy, like hot stone therapy, cupping therapy.
Oh, yes.
I just added that now.
That's very holistic, isn't it? You know, sort of alternative. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. You must be so busy. You haven't got time to even chat to us. That's fantastic. Well, I'm really impressed, and I really like to say thank you so much for your time today. I know it's been sort of ad hoc in some ways, but it's just been so natural just to find out what you do, and I don't think I've even scraped the top of the iceberg off. I think there's so much more that you do, and I hope one day you go, okay, Adrian, you can have another interview, we'll chat on this, we'll do that, because it really is just your whole life's work. I'm surprised you got time to do anything else.
Oh, yeah. I always find time to do stuff.
Oh, good. Well, I suppose it's finding that balance, isn't it? It's finding that balance, isn't it? And you're a happy person in yourself. So that brings good energy to start with. So really thank you for your time today. I've loved understanding. I think I'm going to go write a few notes and come back and bother you again one time, because there seems to be so much in there, and I wish you so much well with your work. And I know at the start I said, why aren't you teaching? But you are teaching, aren't you, if you think about it?
That's just for animals. It's mainly just helping animals. If they get injured, then people know how to help the animals before transporting them to the vet. So. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I wish you all the best with it, and please keep in touch either on Facebook or wherever your media is, because I'm going to watch the space, and maybe one day it'll be you and your sisters working, or at least one of the other sisters, and sort of getting yourselves out there, and I wish you the best for that. Thank you so much for your time today, and I hope to chat with you soon.
I got
time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Sonya. It's clear to see from up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We're meant to be in the great outdoors.